Good evening from Kampala, Uganda. This is Josh Friedman coming to you from a rooftop with a view of the skyline in Kampala, which is Uganda's largest city and capital. And much like the other major cities in the East Africa region that I am currently touring, Kampala is expected to experience some exponential growth over the remainder of the current century, much as is the case with Dar es Salaam, which I discussed in detail, and as is the case with Nairobi, Kenya, where I will soon be heading, followed by Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where I will also soon be heading. Kampala is expected to rapidly grow. Now, as was the case in Dar es Salaam, some of the population projections are a bit outlandish, or at least seem a bit outlandish, but maybe there's some truth to them. And anyway, I'll go ahead and share with you the population projection for Kampala that comes from the same report, or from the same demographers that were projecting around a 75 million person population in Dar es Salaam in the year 2100. Anyway, at the moment, Kampala has about 1.5, maybe 2 million people. And by the year 2100, according to these projections, Kampala is supposed to grow to a city of 40 million. That is 40 million. Who knows if that will be the case, but if that is going to be the case, or anything remotely close to the case, then I'm just a little bit concerned about how this city is going to grow and urbanize. I'm not sure how good of a view I can give you, but I'll try. And before I give you a view of some of the congestion, I'll give you a little bit more of a view of the skyline. I'm always terrible at pointing to these buildings. That is the Pearl of Africa Hotel. It opened just a couple years ago, actually less than 2 years ago, in 2017. The buildings that that really sticks out in the skyline. It's kind of hard for you to see from this vantage point, although you can clearly see that it sticks out in the skyline. It's not right in the core of the Kampala skyline. The core of the Kampala skyline is here behind me, which likewise consists of a bunch of hotels and some commercial buildings. The skyline isn't quite as impressive, or it doesn't have the twin towers or the three towers that Dar es Salaam has, but considering some of what's right around here, I'll try to give you a view of. You see down below there's a bus station. By the way, this bus station, I've got a story or two from there, but it's not nearly as hectic and chaotic as some other bus stations, which are actually referred to as taxi stations in the area, which maybe I can show you one of them, but probably not. Anyway, you can probably get the picture, and by picture I mean contrast, as I stand on a rooftop here overlooking the city center. There are a bunch of buildings that are not terribly impressive, pretty old looking, although they've got an interesting flavor to them and some interesting colors below some of the more modern architecture that now makes up the Kampala skyline. So with a little bit of perspective, maybe the Kampala skyline is fairly nice. Now, maybe you can get a look at a little bit of the congestion. Down there, do you see those white vans? Those white vans are referred to as taxis here in Kampala, and really that's the transit system. They're buses. Yeah, you could call them vans or minivans, and they have taxi written on them, and places like that are referred to as taxi parks. You go to catch a taxi at a so-called taxi at a so-called taxi park here in Kampala. and there's just such crazy congestion. People are packed into the taxis. Well, I mean, if I'm going to compare to, say, Tanzania, they're basically like, what are those? The dollars. They're basically like the dollars of Tanzania. But unlike Dar es Salaam, there's yet to be any sort of rapid transit system implemented here. I was reading that there is plans for one, I think involving Chinese investment. But the plans have yet to come to fruition. And at least in the city center, which you can't see so well from here, but you can take a look at this one road. Frankly, the traffic on this one road, which you can probably see and hear a bit, is nothing compared to some of the intersecting roads right here in the city center. It gets jam-packed and very congested. And the means of transportation are basically car, so-called taxi, or crowded van, and the motorcycles, which are referred to as bodas, which people ride all over the place here, and I've ridden them. I've even used the Uber app to order a boda, which is pretty funny. But those motorcycles, they might not be so safe, but they certainly come in handy because they can weave through the traffic a bit. But even those, they can get stuck behind buses sometimes, or stuck behind big trucks, and you're sitting there breathing in the exhaust that's being emitted from some large truck. So yeah, traffic is pretty rough here in the city center, and I basically bring that up because here you've got some sort of vantage point of the struggles that Kampala will probably be dealing with as it grows and as Uganda urbanizes. There's a nice sunset view. I was going to show you the main mosque, but you're really getting more of a view of the sunset than the mosque. The mosque is right here. It was initially called the Gaddafi National Mosque because it was commissioned by none other than Libya's Muammar Gaddafi. But I believe now it's called the Uganda National Mosque because following Gaddafi's death, the regime that took over in Libya, I think they didn't want it to continue to be called Gaddafi. But nonetheless, Libya provided financing for this mosque. You don't have such a good view of it, although you do have a beautiful view of the sky and somewhat of the sunset. The sun's really setting off in that direction, but a very nice sky nonetheless. The call to prayer, the evening call to prayer, was just being blasted out right before I started this video. There's another mosque just down below here, right beside all those so-called taxis. Anyway, what I was about to say is that there's a slightly better view of the National Mosque. Well, what I was about to say is the population of Uganda right now as a whole, the entire country, is a little more than 40 million. So yeah, it's a sizable country. I mean, it's a very significant country in the region, but this city alone theoretically could have a population of 40 million by the end of the current century. Again, according to projections that who knows to what extent they'll be true. And unlike with Dar es Salaam, this is not some prime coastal real estate. Uganda is a landlocked country, albeit not if you include the lake, that being Lake Victoria, which you got a picture of back in Mwanza, Tanzania. We're actually not very far from Lake Victoria. This city, Kampala, is not on the lake, but it's not that far away. It's also very close to the equator, so it is interesting geographically. It is interesting real estate, although it's not prime oceanfront real estate, as is the case with Dar es Salaam. So here's a picture of the city center and of the skyline. Pretty beautiful sky. Now as the sun is setting, I'll see if I could throw in a view of the Pearl of Africa Hotel, which really looks nice at this time of day, although I don't know how well you can see from the distance. There's the Pearl of Africa Hotel. Can I zoom in? No, I can't in selfie mode. But yeah, the skyline here, it looks okay. It looks fairly nice at sunset, particularly the Pearl of Africa Hotel. Fortunately, you don't get such a good picture of that from this vantage point and with this lens and this focus. But yeah, so here's a look at Kampala, Uganda. Somewhat of a look of the congestion and the skyline in the city center, and a little bit of a discussion of what might be ahead given major population growth that is expected. So thank you very much for tuning in. I hope to be providing you one more video from Uganda, but we shall see. So for now, I'd like to say Webali. I really botched the pronunciation. Webali. The language here is Luganda, and it's not easy. I'll leave it at that. So thank you very much for watching, and goodbye from Kampala.